beginning of the show, very beginning, but we're going to do this in the somewhat beginning of the show. Yeah. Winston says, before we get started, man, I am going to do a magic mind. And I said,
I legitimately said, if I hold on, I'm gonna go get a magic mind, or I will fall asleep in the middle of the show.
You did, and so for people who don't know, Magic Mind is an absolute wonderful energy. It's there's so much energy. It's clean energy, adaptogens, all that stuff, and it is so good. We've been with them for a little bit, and we're really excited that. I mean, this wasn't even going to be a thing. Winston was just like, "Hey, I gotta do my Magic Mind. Hold on." I said, "Well, just do it on the show. So tell people about it." And Winston, what are you digging about Magic Mind?
I mean, it's one of those things where if you want to talk about just getting kind of instant alertness, that's they whatever they have done and put into this magical little vial here. This just
it's clean. It's clean and
it's
there's
just
no jitters.
Clean, and it hits and it hits in such a wonderful, mellow way that you will go from I'm exhausted just
yeah. I like it because it's like not like this. It's like I just feel like my mind, obviously Magic Mind, you start thinking clearly. But so if you guys head on over to magicmind.com/bigthing and you use that code BIGTHING, you will get a discount. And the link is in the description. You're going to see Winston and Coy go from zombies to the wonderful intellectual beings that they are in just a moment here.
Intellectual.
So there you go.
Magic. You see my Twitter, Kristian?
Yeah, I know I have, but how's it going, everybody? It is the big thing. It's Capes and Cowls. It's Friday, and what the stories? I couldn't believe how many stories there were in the world of comic book movies this week. And obviously, the big one is Deadpool and Wolverine. The opening weekend prediction numbers are in, so we're going to discuss that. Tons and tons of DC stuff. Superman. We didn't show the pictures here on the leaked photos, but there's been some stuff that's come out about Green Lantern and Hawkgirl and other things. We'll discuss it and just see how we're feeling about it. Some of the things that has been rumored about Superman in general and overall how it's looking. There's more going on with Shawn Levy and the Avengers movie. What the hell's going on over there? And Supergirl. There's also a big role here for Jason Momoa. Does it look like Lobo is going to make his debut there? We'll talk about that. So, if you're brand new to the channel, subscribe to the channel. Be part of the channel. We have a lot going on here. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Deadpool and Wolverine's right around the corner, man. We're probably gonna on air plan out what the hell our schedule is for that because we're gonna have tons of coverage on it. So once again, hit that button. All right, it is Capes and Cowls. It's myself. It's Winston. It's Coy. Here we go. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Capes and Cowls. It's myself, Winston A. Marshall, Coy Jandro. Crew's back together again.
A little taller.
We fixed the height problem.
A little taller.
We fixed
a little bit.
It was the depth and the height. It was
no more Lil Coy. No more
Coy.
No more Lil.
Kristian sent me that when I was driving, and I actually had to be like, "This is funny," and take a little beat. I was full Hobbit last week.
You were. How are those microphones sounding? Are they both hooked up? Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
You go first.
Mic check.
Yeah, you're good. Okay.
And mic check.
Yeah. Okay, listen. So we have lots to talk about, guys, because as we said, well, first of all, Deadpool and Wolverine, that we were just on off air. We were talking about when we're going to see the screenings and whether or not we don't know yet. All of us, right? We haven't got the invites haven't gone out, but I think that what we'll probably do is a preview special, like we always do on the Friday beforehand. What we expect to see, predictions, and all those. Then we'll do the spoiler heavy discussion on that Monday when it comes out. So I mean, this is the hype train is real though, guys.
We'll probably be separate for the Thursday one because I'll be in San Diego unless you're going down to San Diego. So we'll be separate for the preview one. But also, I'm sorry, I gotta be.
No, it's not that. Got some asshole getting married. And
I know.
Deal with that. I can say that word, right? I know I can't say the harsher ones. Is that what I?
Well, you already said it, so it doesn't really matter, does it?
It's too late now. But my concern is I don't even know of the initial round of press screenings if they're going to be before the Thursday it releases. And if it's not out Thursday, then I'm deleting every app from my phone and not answering it because if I'm in San Diego, which is already the land of nerd spoilers,
So are either first of all, are both you guys going to Comic-Con by any chance? What happened? What just happened?
He had a
was a
LaCroix. It was
kid.
doing one of the can leans.
And he pushed it and it rolled over and I caught it before it was a moment for us and it won't be nearly as exciting.
Said I missed it. Said I
here
missed
in
it.
studio.
Yeah.
San Diego, I'm there all 5 days. I don't think Winston's going because he's got a wedding, but if I'm
right.
there and I haven't seen Deadpool yet, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Well, I think that they're probably going to wind up screening it there.
I think probably like Thursday or Friday.
I'm sure that they will.
Spoilers will be out by Wednesday.
That's also true. That's also true.
I'll be like taking all the apps off my phone. Maybe I won't come back.
Yeah, it makes sense.
China already getting the screenings.
They only got 40 minutes.
Not China already getting 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Big man.
And there's some spoilers in those 40 minutes. I've heard.
They showed 40 minutes of the movie already?
Yeah.
Because they're touring with the film. They've done Korea and China so far.
And there's got to be tons of probably tons of spoilers.
Yeah. So avoid that as best you can.
Yeah. Why would they do that? Why would they want to show that?
Because I would make the argument that obviously they're doing fine with Inside Out and everything else like that. But if Marvel's trying to right the ship and you have had a number of instances where it either isn't playing in China because of any number of political issues, things like that, if you're trying to catch the big whale again, then you got to do whatever you can. So
I think they're going to
physically touring. Like the three of them are touring. They've been just on Instagram at odd hours of the night because it's wherever they are at that time, just doing presentations and stuff.
Well, if we're calling the big whale the $1 billion, right? That's what Winston's referring to. So if that's the case, let's get into this story. Check this out. All right, Deadpool and Wolverine is now set for a record-breaking box office debut with $160 million to $165 for the opening weekend. So this is from Mark Cassidy of a Comic Book Movie. And he says, we are now 3 weeks away from the release of Marvel Studios' Deadpool and Wolverine, and the movie looks set for a massive opening weekend at the box office. 3 weeks out from the theatrical release of Deadpool and Wolverine, box office tracking is pointing to a potentially record-breaking opening weekend for Marvel Studios / Disney's first ever rated R movie. The Merc with a Mouth MCU debut is expected to take in at least $160 million to $165 domestically over the 26 to 28 week in July, and this would not only give the film the best opening of 2024 so far, but the biggest launch ever for an R-rated title, a record still held by the first Deadpool movie, which amassed $133.7 million domestically when it hit theaters back in 2016. The prospect of seeing Ryan Reynolds, Wade Wilson joining forces with Hugh Jackman's Logan is clearly a huge draw, which was already evident from the ticket sale numbers. Marvel will obviously be hoping these estimates prove to be accurate, as the studio really needs a box office win after a run of disappointing movies, including Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and The Marvels, which actually emerged as the lowest grossing film in the history of the MCU. All right, so those are big numbers there when you have the 160, 165. I'll venture to say that that's just a prediction in general. I think it's going to go higher than that. I think it's going to be about 180 personally. But I think even though 160, 165, if they're on range, I think it's going to be big. I think it is. I've been calling this movie. I think we all have that it's going to make $1 billion. Roka's going to owe me a steak, and that's going to be that.
Hold on.
Yeah, Roka
he doesn't think it's going to hit $1 billion.
Dude, we had a bet, and now originally when we made it, the bet was that it just has to cross 750 for me.
I forgot. He didn't.
Yeah, and so he keeps trying to go back on it and say like, no, I said $1 billion in the first, but people just keep sending him the footage where he clearly said something.
There's a lot of things that I would, applaud Roka and say that he is fantastic at. He has a very good intro spiel. His voice commands a lot of authority. He's clearly a Schmodown champion. You got to give him credit. He is terrible determining what movies are going to make at the box office. Mm-hmm. I genuinely am thinking about it. I don't know a single time, and he's probably going to come for me. I'm going to get a text later about this. I don't know a time where he's like, yeah, that's going to make $800 million.
Well, he's going to throw you Aquaman. I think he said Aquaman would make $1 billion, and it did. I think so. He's going to.
Well, a broken clock is right twice a day. So
right.
You don't get a brownie point for 2 out of your 10 predictions being correct.
Yeah, we'll let him deal with you on that one. But let's talk about the box office itself. And this thing, 165. I mean, everything about this, Coy, is I think that this article is accurate, right? Where they're saying that this is a must win. We've talked about it on this show a million times. The must win, and it looks like it's already a win. The question is, can it do? You look at what Inside Out 2 just did. Inside Out 2 did gangbusters in its opening weekend. So everyone was like, okay, wow, that's a good number. It's a great number. We thought it'd have a really good number. It had a fantastic number. But what's it going to do week 2? And week 2, it makes $100 million on week 2. So it's always about the drop off on the second week, right? So would Deadpool and Wolverine, do you think that, let's say it opens up, first of all, what's your opening number for domestically on Deadpool Wolverine? And then follow that up with, what do you think the second week is from drop off if it's good?
I'm gonna say 170 to 175. I'm gonna just go 10 million higher than these predictions. I want to say 200 million, but I feel like I'd rather go slightly under and be happy than overestimate. But I do think it's gonna beat its own record. What's funny to me is that like Deadpool 1 broke the R-rated record, and then Deadpool 2 beat Deadpool, and now Joker beat the two of them as far as like box office for R-rated movies. So like 3 of the top R-rated grossing movies are comic movies, and everyone's like, we need to make these PG-13. Some of them need to be rated R, and I think that Deadpool is going to show that a lot, and I think that's going to help box office wise, Blade, Midnight Sun, etc. But I do think the second weekend will be pretty huge, because from everything I hear, this is a super rewatchable movie. From everything I hear, there's a lot of details and stuff you're going to want to catch round 2. So I think this is going to be a movie designed to get another round out of it. So I see 170 to 175 weekend 1, and I'm going to go 110 weekend 2. I'm going to say it's only going to have like a 30% drop off. Wow. I think tiny drop off, because I think there's going to be people that can't make it opening weekend, which I hope don't include me, and also people that want to rewatch it as soon as they can, as soon as they're out of work that week.
A lot of repeat viewing, you think?
I think so, yeah. Easter eggs, cameos, word of mouth. I also think people like us that put out, like breakdown videos and Easter eggs and things that are like incentive to see it again. A lot of people don't catch stuff the first time. Yeah. So I think there's a perk in that second weekend.
What do you think, Winston?
Inside Out, I don't know if there's a lot of Easter eggs. Like, I liked Inside Out too, but I wasn't like, gotta see Anxiety's reaction again like that.
Well, yeah, but families went and saw that.
But 100%.
I get it with families, but based off of everything we've said about box office, it still did well enough that there were families that didn't get a chance to go weekend 1 that made up those numbers.
True.
I would put dollars to donuts that a vast majority are not repeat families because of how expensive the movies
That's
are.
True,
we saw it. Let's watch the first one at home, and when the second one comes out on digital, we'll watch it again. So that is just catch up.
All right, Winston. So, all right, we heard Coy got his prediction. Your prediction on what Deadpool makes opening weekend, and then what it makes on its follow-up.
Okay, so I'm actually going to stick with the 160, 165. If you're going to make me pick a number, I'll go closer to 165. We'll call that. But then I think that you're probably going to end up around 120, 125. I honestly think that you'll have a drop-off, but I think it's going to be relatively not as big as previous blockbusters in this realm, because this feels like a Barbie Endgame level event. Spider-Man, No Way Home, Avatar. You just, people are way too hype about this, and especially if it hits that 165, that 170, so it's that good that you're gonna get the repeat views for it, for the Easter eggs, as you mentioned, all that kind of stuff. But then think about what you just said. Like, obviously, you have people at Comic-Con seeing it, but if a lot of that are screenings at Comic-Con, who's not going to want to come home and go, y'all, we have to go see this movie right now.
With my friends, I
got to see it with my friends. There is replay value to it that isn't necessarily true for a family film, only because of how expensive it is to go to the movies. And the only thing you're doing is getting the same movie, where you convince a child, let's watch Inside Out 1 a couple times at home.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to disparage Inside Out 2. I was just saying, like, the audience that is particular to the repeat of Deadpool is the Easter egg audience versus the repeat audience of Inside Out is families, which isn't the same draw to go that first weekend back.
And I also think on the casual side of things too, it's also the big blockbuster movie that's really not out right now. And you have this kind of event film. This feels in the same way that Spider-Man was starting to get hyped up. That's what this feels like. And the marketing, once again, has been phenomenal for this film. There is going to be a lot of those moments you think of the, oh, wow, look at that. There are going to be those member berries. There's going to be like those things that they're going to rely on for cameos. And as long as the movie isn't just that, and it also has it had all that, but it was also great. And it had these moments of they took risks for it. It was, depending on how it comes out critically, I think Winston's not wrong with its second weekend, but I think that if it has that number on the second weekend, it's on a much higher opening weekend. I think that it'll probably
the drop off is going to be 40%, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think
a 40% drop off is unheard of.
I think it'll most likely be around the 180, and then it lands between the 110, 120 on its second weekend.
But I also think there's a unique opportunity for it to have long legs into August because the August releases aren't as big.
That's true.
A late July release, not only is it going to have a good time second weekend, but it's third, fourth, fifth. I think it's going to, I personally think this is going to clear $1.5 billion. But that's pretty insane for an R-rated movie. But it's also, I mean, when Deadpool 1 came out, movie tickets were 75 cents. So I think that, you know, if Deadpool 1 can make that much money, then we're in a good spot.
I think I think it's an excellent point. It's a really, really good point because there is not a lot of competition. It comes out at the end of July. It wasn't supposed to come out in the end of July, but it probably is going to be a happy accident for them. And there is, I mean, I think The Crow at one point, The Crow might still be coming. I'm not sure, but
The
even
Crow's
so,
in August, and there's 3 things in August.
Alien, the Alien movie also, but it's still not enough that it's going to take a massive chunk out of the major audience that they're aiming for. So this is going to be a major hit for them, and then we'll get into the other movies that have to do well after that. What's up, Winston?
All I was going to say is I think the other big thing, like the rumor has been circulating for a while now about Taylor Swift potentially being in this film.
Right.
And on top of that, there was like a even more push because Ryan dropped a photo of Deadpool
in the pose
as Taylor's Evermore. Here is the big thing. No pun intended. If you end up in a situation where Taylor is in the movie, that's not going to force the Swifties to drop their plans the same weekend to go see it. But that means weekend 2, you now get a surge of her audience, even if she's only in it for 1 or 2 minutes, to be like, oh my God, she's in the MCU. And that by itself will not only keep the numbers up, it might even inflate them even more.
Once she posts that she's in it,
on Wednesday or whatever, then that's us. And that's every cameo. Obviously, she's the biggest. Every cameo is going to have like, oh, they're in that? I'll check it out. Like a lot of, 40, 50-year-olds are going to be like, oh, James Marsden's in it? I'm going to go check it out. Like there's a different...
I stopped myself, though. I stopped myself from saying, I was like, at first I'm like, oh, wouldn't it behoove them to actually have her, if she's in it, to tweet it out? But I'm like, the movie's already going to do well.
Save that.
Yeah, you save it because you're already selling in pre-sales, and then it seems like the hype is up, and then then it comes out the spoiler that she is in it, then it's like, yeah, hey, now have her talk about it, and this is already probably planned out with Ryan Reynolds with her. Yeah, they're friends.
Here would be my guess of how they do this. She's on tour as is. So you don't actually have her come to the premiere. She probably could find time, but you don't have her do that, right? Instead, what you do is you wait till the movie comes out. Then you, on the night that like it's kind of wide release to everybody, have her on tour, be like, hey, yo, so by the way, and you could do it. She does secret songs and stuff. You do it with one of those things. And you could even at that point, Ryan would probably be free. You have Ryan come out or whatever. And the minute you do that, Swifties around the world, because they still watch live streams of a show they went to 4 times,
right?
Are going to go, wait, what?
So eventually you have to promote with her if she's in the movie, and if it's big enough, the role, if the part is big enough to where it's like they don't feel gypped from seeing it. But
I also want to give credit to the promotion of the film not giving things away like that. The trailer came out a month and a half ago, and then 2 weeks later they did the ticket release. They didn't do a ticket release trailer, and I love that they didn't do a ticket release trailer, because that's usually the one that gives out too much. And then I was really worried that them doing ticket sales so early meant they were going to put out an even more revealing third trailer. But now that we're literally 3 weeks out as of recording, that means I don't think we get another trailer, and that like Sabretooth spot didn't give away nearly as much as I was afraid it would. It was like half old footage. So I think this promotional tour not only has been perfect for getting the buzz up, but it's been really respectful to the movie.
Yeah. All right. So what say you guys? Do you think that this is going to hit 200 million opening weekend? I think it's got a good shot at this point with these calculations already, because sometimes the numbers are off by 5 million. Sometimes they're off by 20 or more. So, and what do you think it'll make opening weekend, depending on what it is? That's a fun thing to do in the comment section today. Throw in your comments and give me your prediction. I want to see how many people are saying 200 and then second weekend. So give me your first week, give me your second week. Let that be something that is part of the entire comment section today. Put as many in there. I want to see all the predictions. So I've never commented before. Here's your first one. First weekend, what do you got? Second weekend, what do you got? What's the drop-off going to be? And we haven't even talked about this. And this has happened with many movies. Is it also possible that the calculations are off? Will it wind up making 130, 120? I don't think so. I don't think Coy or Winston thinks so, but maybe there's somebody in the chat that thinks, no, actually, I think this thing's going to underperform. So go ahead and put your comments in there. let me know. All right, before we move on, as I tell you guys on the show, we're always excited to be working with our wonderful sponsors, and we got two great ones that I'm going to tell you about. I've told you a million times over about AG1, and I've been telling you so much about Built lately, and so many of you guys have been signing up to both. So here you go. Let me tell you about AG1 and Built. And I got to tell you about AG1. You guys know AG1. I mean, if you've been listening to this show long enough, you know that I love AG1, and people keep asking me. They notice. John even said when I started, new look, 20 pounds I lost. One of those reasons, AG1 became part of my routine. Because for a long time, I wasn't paying attention to what was going on in my body. It just wasn't. For me, I read labels, I verify that everything is up to the quality I need, and that is why I've stayed with AG1 for as long as I have. It is a research-backed foundational nutrition supplement. And it delivers daily nutrients, gut health support, and is backed by multiple research studies so you can trust what you're putting into your body. Because I like coffee. I used to drink so much coffee to keep up, but I don't need it anymore, not as much. Because after drinking AG1, I have realized that I have all this energy and I need less coffee to power my day. It turns out I'm not alone. Because in a research study, 91% of people noticed they needed less coffee after 60 days of drinking AG1. 97% of people in a research study felt more energy after 30 days of drinking AG1. That's crazy. 91% of participants noticed that they need less coffee after 60 days of drinking AG1. That's me. Energy is a majorly important reason why it comes to I need so much energy for parenting. I can tell you that right now. AG1 contains ingredients to sustain energy so you can be the best version of yourself within each day. And it really has worked for me, and it's helped me on the plane, everything. It's easy, it's satisfying to start your journey with AG1. If you go to AG1 and you can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3, K2, and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. You got to go to drinkag1.com/bigthing. drinkag1.com/bigthing. It's the one product I trust to support my whole body health. It's AG1. All right, you know what stinks? When you're stuck in a loop of rent payments, you're just watching your money vanish into thin air. It's the worst. It's time to turn the rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. How do you do that? That is where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as the first rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Doesn't matter, even if you're rocking the old school rent check vibes, Built Rewards, it's got your back. They're going to mail the check for you. It's like basically having a personal rent paying assistant. It's the best. Every month, you pay your rent and you watch the points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/bigthing. That is joinbilt.com/bigthing. So use our URL so they know that we sent you. That's joinbuilt.com/bigthing. Start earning points with your rent payments today. All right, thank you to our friends over at AG1 and Built. As I mentioned, if you want to help out the show, you can help out and you want to support the show. People always say, hey, I really like what you're doing. I really want to support you guys. What do I do? Get something for yourself. And AG1 and Built, that's the way to go. So check it out. Okay, there's a big rumor here. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. There's a big rumor that they're eyeing Jason Momoa for a role. Will this be Lobo, and will Lobo make his DCU debut? There's a new rumor claiming that DC Studios is interested in bringing in Jason Momoa on board for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, leading to speculation that Lobo might be set to make an appearance. With House of the Dragons, Millie Alcock set to play the title role, casting is now underway for the supporting characters in DC Studios' upcoming Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and a new rumor has led to speculation that Lobo might be set to make his DCU debut in the movie. According to Daniel Rickman, DC Studios is interested in bringing Jason Momoa on board for an undisclosed role, which sounds a lot like Lobo. If the Aquaman star has been approached for a part, Lobo would make the most sense, but it's worth keeping in mind that we still don't have official confirmation that the last Sarzinian, whatever that is that what it is?
Yep.
I got it?
You got it.
Look at me.
I'm actually proud of you.
All right, I'm proud of myself. Is the character Momoa was referring to when he indicated that he was planning to leave the King of Atlantis behind and make the jump to the DCU, although several trade reports have suggested this was the case. Previous rumor claimed that the project is currently searching for actors to play the villainous Krem of the Yellow Hills, male 25 to 45, and Kara Zor-El's ally, Ruth Mare Knoll, age 13 to 16. Right? Is that true?
Yep.
I don't know why I thought you were about to say Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader age 13 to 16. It's a young RBG.
Yeah. Woman of Tomorrow will be the second DCU movie to release in theaters after Superman. Warner Brothers recently announced that The Girl of Steel will take flight on June 26th, 2026. Greg Gillespie is set to direct. Okay.
Funny story. They actually did indeed also call Ruth Bader Ginsburg the Woman of Tomorrow and the Girl of Steel when she was 97 years old, still doing her little curls.
Doing the work.
That's right.
I love this idea. I do think that the DC meeting that Momoa had all those months ago wasn't about Aquaman. Remember that video of him like,
of course.
Like that was Lobo. And I think this is just finally it coming to fruition. It totally makes sense to have this greater world introduce Lobo because it's a space opera story. Lobo's not directly in the Tom King comic, but his character type totally works for that world. And I think one, the makeup's going to make him unrecognizable compared to Aquaman. Two, you don't mess up not casting Jason Momoa as Lobo.
I was going to say the same thing. Yep.
You don't mess it up twice.
Yeah.
That's the thing to me that I think is so wild. It's like he did a great job with Aquaman, but God, you missed the mark on that.
He was also Aqua Lobo.
He was Aqua Lobo essentially, and that's because the funny thing is I obviously most people enjoyed what he was doing, but every time he spoke like while with the Justice League, I was more ready for someone to be like, I'm gonna slap the taste out your mouth, because that's pretty much every time Lobo talks. You're like, just like Deadpool, you're like, will you shut the
5 minutes? Yeah,
just be quiet.
Whereas Aquaman is like, I am a knight of the water, and like I've not seen that out of. So I think Aqua Lobo turning into Lobo is great. I think James Gunn really wants to make fans happy, and I think fans have wanted him as Lobo. And also the amount that Momoa as a person loves Lobo. He has every Lobo comic. Like, the man loves Lobo. I think it's the right move.
Yeah, it is absolutely the right move. And because if you have someone who can play the role, who looks like it, you don't, and James Gunn does not do this, you don't say, well, the fans, everybody, this is what, I hate doing this all the time, but this is what Lucasfilm does very, very well. Fans want it. Rosario Dawson. So one time, fans think that one particular thing, they think it should be right. It's right in front of your face. Everyone knows how good it should be, and you don't do it. Well, James Gunn doesn't do that, and I think that James Gunn knows that this is that's exactly why they met. It's exactly why they met. Coy, you're right. It's like and I think that they had this moment with him and said, "Look, we're putting this movie out, Aquaman." And we don't necessarily know, and I don't think you know, where, like, look, if this thing winds up making $1 billion, maybe there's a thing we do with Aquaman. Well, let's see, but probably going to put it to bed. But we really want you to be in it. And come on, and he's like, Lobo, right? He's like, yeah, of course, Lobo. Of course, Lobo. And now the bigger question is whether or not he's going to play Lobo in Supergirl, right? If that is actually going to happen. I actually think it is a really, really smart move to do Superman and then Supergirl, boom, boom, back to back. I think it's very, very smart. I think it gives one of the most major properties, biggest characters of all time, give him his due. Once again, he hasn't had a proper movie. I mean, I like Man of Steel. I don't know where you guys stand on it, but I really like Man of Steel. But it's a different version of Superman for sure.
Yeah, I love the movie as an Elseworld. Yeah. I see the character a little different, but I love the movie.
Yeah, go ahead, Winston.
I was just gonna say there was another list that I saw that was like, and not to inflame any Snyder fans or anything. They were like the ways in which James Gunn's so far what we've seen matches a little better than what Man of Steel was, and one of the main ones for the Snyderverse. One of the main things that they brought up is it's the idea that it's not that Superman, that people don't see Superman as a god. It's just the god worship of him was a little different than what Superman has always presented. He doesn't present himself as such. He really leans more into, no, guys, I'm genuinely like you. I'm human like you. I'm trying to show you what doing the right thing is. So the amount of hostility that went towards Superman typically is reserved either for Lex or because he has been brainwashed and has fully turned his back on the earth. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, F you, dude, like you're insane. So the amount of vitriol and or praise Jesus that like went to Superman was just not necessarily the right fit. And so that's the only thing with Man of Steel for me, mainly leaning more into Batman v Superman, that I didn't love quite as much personally.
Well, I mean, but the movie itself, I liked the shot of taking a different approach to him. I think every once in a while you need that, and I still like it. I love the Hans Zimmer score. I love what Henry Cavill did, but the Superman that we know, that version of him they haven't had a proper version of that in live action since Superman 2. Right? I mean,
yeah, I'd say Brandon Routh was close.
Yeah, but the movie itself.
The movie's not good.
Yeah, and they were just doing an imitation of the Christopher Reeve. I thought he was fine in it. Yeah.
Version of it was closer, but even that, the shows, I mean, I've done a good job. But TV, different medium altogether.
But not a movie.
In movies, I do think it's been a while.
Not a movie. So the idea of doing this, and you have him, and we all stick to this movie. You know, you might as well just maybe you can still do Supergirl afterwards. But if Superman doesn't do well, you got to put a fork in this DCU already, because you're gonna have a lot of problems if it like bombs. But I don't think it will. I think it's going to be another hyped movie that does very well, and then you do a good post credit, or I don't even think post credit. I think Millie Alcock she's going to be in it.
She should be in it somewhere.
She's in it somewhere, and so then you follow that up, and you have that be the next movie. If you do that movie, and then what's the third one? They haven't announced it yet, right? But would it be Batman?
Well, they've got Batman with a director attached, and they've got Swamp Thing with a director attached. So you got your weird one, you got your big two, and then you've got, a weird animated thing to kick it off. I think that's a great slate to open up the gate for DCU.
I do too. If you do, because you've now introduced Superman, Supergirl, Batman, and then the obscure one with Swamp Thing. But I think that,
and Frank Grillo's in the first three, which I think is really smart. James Gunn has been really stressing that animation, live action, and video game are the same actor, and I think that's what's going to be very unique about the DCU. And I think having Frank Grillo in the first three, because he's in Creature Commandos, right, Peacemaker, and in Superman. So I think it's smart. They're out the gate going to be like, this is all one thing. This is tied together. So then if you follow those three up with Supergirl,
well, it also adds up to where, he's not just doing, he's like, look, this is the one thing right here, but the other DC stuff, if you like, Joker's coming out. We got the Penguin series. We have all these things that if you don't want to follow the whole big thread and all that stuff, you just want like Elseworld stuff and little side things, we got it. We got Batman. We're going to have Matt Reeves thing. And I think that's a smart way to do it. And I also think they're going to, well, they've already said they're going to do comic books and other things that are not in the, they'll do Elseworlds and that stuff as well, which is
comics. Like you can go to the comic store and pick up comic books.
It makes it less confusing. It makes it less confusing, and it makes it like, oh, okay, that's what. I mean, that's maybe the casual fan will still get confused. I mean, I'm sure, but I think where it's you put these things together and go, everything is canon, and then what this negates that. Well, we're going to change that up for this one. It's like you can't do that. You can't do that.
And that's, I think, one of the things that actually was a blessing for James in this regard, by essentially being forced to take the year off. He wasn't able to write, but that means that you can plan. Like you were allowed to plan things. You just could not actually make scripts, drafts, things like that. So if he literally thought to himself, okay, so right, we got the Superman film, and we know that we're introducing Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, and I want to do these Lantern shows. So I need to make sure that when that Lantern show happens, that the video game that we're doing of, like the cosmic, heroes, that needs to make sure that ties in. So like, I guarantee if he hadn't already had that map, that just gave him more time to make sure his ducks were in a row. And that's the one thing we've said about all of these franchises. Stop announcing things so far out when it's very clear you have a very rough outline of what you want versus genuinely knowing, and then it really is step 2, step 3.
I really hope San Diego is just like a 3-year plan, man. I really hope Marvel doesn't give I want 1 or 2 new properties at most. I really think they should firm up the next couple of years, not go like, and phase, like the boys, phase 19. Like I want this to be.
That was masterclass, but they always have been masterclass with their spoofs, man. What was it, VOT 52?
Yeah,
that or the V52,
dude.
That was insane. Kids. How do you take a swipe at Disney D23 and the DC Universe,
the New 52?
The New 52 at the same time? That's absolutely
They know their
insane.
comics. But I do think San Diego Comic-Con is going to be a tightening up of not planning too far ahead, because you're right, James Gunn did have that opportunity that I think he had a loose plan or a medium to firm plan that's now a plan. Because I remember it sounded like they were taking pitches on the announced properties to decide when they were coming, but you'd have time to really maneuver your calendar in that strike. Whereas Marvel, they use that opportunity to, I think, be more introspective. I think instead of like planning and scheming, they went like, okay, what hasn't worked? Why hasn't it worked? Do we reshoot all of Cap 4? Do we fix this? Like,
they shouldn't have been, but they apparently were calling people's agents and being like, "Hey, yo, you trying to be the Thing, my guy?" I don't know if y'all heard that, but that's what Evan Moss Baccarat was saying on
during
the Daily Show. He said, "I was just walking down the street like during the strike in August, and then my agent called. They're like, they want you to play the Thing." I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Did you just say that out loud? What are you doing?"
Well, I mean, yeah, look, it's going to be, there's so much, though. There's just so much that's coming down the pike for DC. There's so much coming out in general now. And that's why I said in the beginning of this, how many stories there were. And a lot of DC stuff, I do want to talk about we don't have to show the pictures, but we'll talk a little bit about some of the stuff that leaked with the Superman. And then coupling that with, as Winston was mentioning, with Green Lantern. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But before I do, I also want to mention, as I talked about before, it is so crucial for you guys, if you find sponsors that we have that you like, to get them, because it helps the show out and you'll end up getting something really great. So let me tell you about both Tushy and Songfinch. Let me tell you about both of them right now. Here you go. So many comments lately about everybody that's buying the Tushies. And I see why you're buying them. I love them. You love them. Chris Carr loves them. Everybody loves the Tushies. I'm so excited to get you guys to get a Tushy that I almost thought about doing this from the bathroom, but then I was like, no, I want you to get it. It's terrible. That's a terrible thing for me to do, but I want to do it because I want to show you how much I love the Tushies. Check this out alone. Look at this. Just open up the toilet lid. You spray the water right in your tush. It's wonderful. Look at that. That's how it works. It's that easy. You put it on the toilet. You open it up. You spray the water on your butt. It's lovely. It's going to change the way that you think about cleaning up after a spicy dump in a coffee shop or a porta potty during a music festival. You're going to want to take Tushy with you everywhere, and thankfully you can. Because the Tushy Travel, it's collapsible, it's durable, and discreet portable bidet that gives you the most confident clean on the go. I keep telling people about these things. Everybody are getting the Tushies now, and everyone's like, oh, man, can I use your code? Can I use your code? Of course you can. It's the best. I got one. I've got two in my house right now, and it is so wonderful. We feel classy in this house. It's got a 3-stream nozzle for a total clean. It's got a new air mesh bag for discreet travel, faster dry time. It comes in 5 new colors. Every Hello Tushy bidet comes with a 30-day hassle-free return and 12-month warranty. So stop wiping until you bleed. Join the 2 million butts who have already made the switch to Tushy. For a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off your entire order, but you got to use that code BIGTHING. 10% off Hello Tushy, HELLTUSHY.com with the promo code BIGTHING. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. I wanted to let you guys know about something that I've mentioned before, but I know that a lot of times when you're looking for gifts, I'm terrible at looking for gifts. I really am. And I want to find special gifts, and I want people to know that they have, that I was caring about it. I was thinking about it, and I put some thought into it. And I'm always like, what do I do? And then I discovered Songfinch. Well, what's Songfinch? I found Songfinch, and it is a game changer. It's thoughtful, it's unique, and they're going to feel super special. Songfinch lets you create an original radio quality song inspired by your own life and the people you love. It's completely unique, it's personal, and it lasts forever. You can use it for graduation, you could do wedding, you could do anniversary, or even just a gift to show your loved one how much you care. Start your song now to lock in one of Songfinch's top artists. So I did it. I'm going to give you a little bit. I did one for my wife, and I was excited. I gave a whole bunch of different things about things that we met, things about our kids, and all these things that I thought would be a really good basis for a song. And take a little. A
comedian from New York met an artist from LA, and it seems as though we're opposites, but we're meant to be.
You just get a little tease, but you get it. You understand exactly what we're working with here, and you can stream it. You can do all this stuff with it. It's amazing. For a limited time, Songfinch is letting our listeners upload their song to Spotify for free, so you and the lucky person you gift it to can listen to it anywhere, anytime. Go to songfinch.com/Harloff and start your song. After you purchase, you'll be prompted to add Spotify streaming for your original song for free, and it's a $50 value. Again, you got to use that URL, songfinch.com/Harloff. Don't forget to share your song with us, too, though. We want to hear it. songfinch.com/Harloff. All right, thank you to our friends over at Tushy and Songfinch. All of our sponsors here today helps the show. We only sign up for people that we think you guys are going to like, and the stuff that I really like, so I can talk about it. And that's why we did. So sign up. Links are in the description. I always pin it as the first comment. Okay, moving on. Let's get to this DC thing with the Superman pictures, guys. So as I said, I'm not going to show. There's been tons of leaks, tons of stuff that has been from people who are, whether they're extras or whether they're just people, paparazzi, whatever it is, they've been taking these shots. And the latest one that people started having a stink over was the Hawkgirl costume, right? To which I always say, look, if it's not a released photo, you don't know the context of how it's going to look with CGI and how it's going to look with when it's kind of beefed up a little bit more and they're shooting it. You can't. It's hard to say from a distorted photo what it looks like. So I wasn't. Did it look amazing? No, not really. But I'm not gonna be quick to judge here because I think James Gunn has earned the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. The only one that got me was more Nathan Fillion's, just in the sense that there wasn't a whole hell of a lot of green on it. And it also looked like there wasn't a lantern symbol. It looked like it might have been like an old school, like Justice League, like international symbol and stuff like that. But I don't, again, we are under the guise that, like, yes, most of the costumes here are practical, but there is plenty, especially with the wings, that you're going to need to do CGI on. So again, unless you saw some footage, like you said, Kristian, that's complete, and maybe this is a first test screening, and you want to complain about that. This isn't Sonic with the human teeth.
No,
this is literally, we're mid-shot. We're not done.
Well, because Sonic with the teeth was official. It was an official thing that was released, and even not seeing the Green Lantern stuff, we don't know. It hasn't been added in there too. So, yeah.
Also, it seems obvious to me that, and I hope, I don't like piecing together story from paparazzi photos because there's very little worse than a paparazzi. But I think that it's the Maxwell Lord story, and it's going to be, obviously, they're working for a corporation, Maxwell Lord. This stuff's branded Maxwell Lord. And then they see that Superman is saving people without this oversight and without this corporate interest, and I think it inspires them. I think Superman inspires not just the people of Metropolis, but the heroes of Metropolis. And those costumes aren't their costumes. Those costumes are like an Amazon driver shirt. They're propaganda for Maxwell Lord. So to me, those aren't the final costumes. So I think complaining about something without context in a visual setting, in a story setting, in any sort of way, is like, I love burgers, but the last thing I want to see is a cow get massacred and see all the pieces. I want to see it when it's done. I want to see the movie. Jesus. Like I'm not watching slaughterhouse videos. I wait till my burger's not moving and I eat it.
Happy Merca Day.
I'm just saying. Yeah, when I ate yesterday's meats, I didn't see them in process. I saw them when they were finished.
Right. You pretend. I don't know how this happened. So
exactly. I don't want to see these previs photos. I want to eat my cow silent.
Coy out here like la 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 la. Wait till they get my burger right.
Medium well.
Nice. All right. So we're gonna keep going, and we'll stick with DC and stick with Green Lantern. Check this shit out. Hold on. All right. So Superman, do the latest set photos, as we're talking about, do they hint at the introduction of another Green Lantern? So the photos from the set of James Gunn's Superman aren't massively revealing, but they might hint at the introduction of another Green Lantern. Mark Cassidy writes, we're now in day 9 of shooting of Superman, and while these latest photos aren't quite as revealing as the first glimpse of Nathan Fillion and Isabella Merced suited up as Guy Gardner and Hawkgirl, they might hint at the introduction of a second Green Lantern. In addition to another look at David Corenswet taking flight as the Man of Steel, and a video of a very panicked-looking crowd running for cover, several shots show a woman carrying a squirrel over to Corenswet in a case, and the actor seemingly interacting with the little critter. If you're unfamiliar with the Green Lantern comics, you might be wondering what the heck this has to do with the ring-slinging heroes, but one member of the GL Corps is, in fact, an oh my God, an anthropomorphic squirrel named Chip. Is that true?
Yep.
Yeah.
That is a lantern. Yeah, there's a living planet. There is
There
a
you
squirrel.
go. All right. Well, might be another explanation, especially if Chip was part of the movie. He would also be a CGI character, but we're not sure what else could be going on here. All right. So that's certainly possible. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be 1,000 different characters. Probably one. I think there's going to be like a really big chaotic scene where you're going to get Hawkgirl, you're going to get Green Lantern, you're going to get all these people to where it's, and this is where James Gunn said to everybody, don't worry, it's a Superman story at its core, but there's going to be like this one big thing I think that happens with all these people, this particular moment, introducing characters and say, hey, this is our little, it's going to be relevant to the story, but inside of it, we're also going to introduce you a few characters that you'll probably meet along the way, but they're going to interact with Superman, and hey, it's this little chipmunk. And there you go. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think.
Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. I never come on this stupid show. I'm always on the other one. But listen, when they're bringing in a chipmunk, and you know that James Gunn, that's a dirty mother F, that guy. How come I'm not on that show? How am I not on that movie? I say, hey, come on, Superman, I'll battle you with my ball bag. Boom, 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 boom. Knock that little mother around. That's what I'm doing. All right, I'll see you.
Instead of a Green Lantern, he's a Blue Lantern. He's a blue ball.
That's right. I'll see you later, you freaking geeks.
Thanks a lot. Real nice.
I can't believe he moved with you to New York.
Yeah,
That's
man.
nonsense.
Hey, he didn't move with me. He jumped in my suitcase. He got all hopped up on the dog's tranquilizers, and I didn't know he was there. Anyway, but yeah, so he doesn't show up on this show normally, but he was here today. But yeah, anyway, so there's a chipmunk running around the place, right?
I mean, I think in the way that what Matt Reeves did exceptionally well with the Batman is you focused on
Ralph Biscuits.
You focused on Bruce and Batman really dealing with this Riddler case, but you fully built out what the universe is. Like, I thought introducing the Joker was a little much. If you wanted a post-credit scene, I would have been better with that. But like, you let us know who lives in this world. So now the Penguin is perfectly set up, and the Batman 2 is perfectly set up, and we understand the parameters. We didn't spend a bajillion years with Penguin. We had him on screen for 15 minutes at most?
Yeah.
The Joker was in it for 5 minutes at most. This is kind of, to me, the same thing. You have a situation where introduce me to what this universe looks like, but focus on Superman. That is really the what we're trying to do here. I think everything that's going on based off of kind of the shots we're seeing on set and all, I think that's totally fine.
Coy?
Also, I mean, James Gunn, noted animal hater, would not want to work with a CGI animal. He certainly hasn't historically involved anthropomorphic animals. I think it's a really good opportunity for him to kind of plant the seeds for, I mean, I think we'll get Crypto. I think we'll get Chip. I think we'll get certain... I think you need to make this universe more fun, and I think that using animals in a way that he does, I think you could go very wrong very quickly. If another director was doing a Superman movie and I heard, a squirrel Green Lantern was in it, I'd be like, okay, I'm a little worried. Okay, Warner Brothers, what are you doing? But since it's James Gunn and he's so good at that, and he's proven time and time again, I think it's really smart to add some levity, and I think that a squirrel is a really fun way to do it.
But what it will do is show you right away that it's not as it's based more in the otherworldly stuff, and all these different things are going to be
not the Matt Reeves Batman.
No, and it's showing you that right away. But I always get nervous when it's like, okay, well, what's it going to look like, or is it going to look, is it going to pull me out of the scene? In the
same team did Guardians. That's doing that.
I know, but it doesn't matter though. Where it's like, what are we in the middle of this thing, and then we got Superman talking to a chipmunk? It's going to be, or a squirrel, whatever the hell it is. But it's going to be, it will be jarring if not done right. So it's risky. In the same way, you always reference Empire Strikes Back, because if Yoda doesn't work as
great example.
If you don't believe it, it's like it's over. That whole movie doesn't work.
No, I totally understand that. I think the big difference here again, and what it looks like is genuinely being teed up, is exactly that. You're not meeting these characters throughout the film. It's not like in the first 10 minutes he meets Guy Gardner, and then in the next 10 minutes he meets Hawkgirl separately, and then in the next 10 minutes he meets Chip, and then in the next 10 minutes
it's one big scene, one scene.
It literally feels like, in the way in why Across the Spider-Verse works, yes, you meet the Spider Society, but you're not spending time with the Spider Society. He's walking through, oh my God, that's a horse Spider-Man, that's a mecha Spider-Man, and then you're focusing on Miguel, you're focusing on Gwen, and obviously the main element is Miles, and that's where you're at. And then the other elements come in to fill out that universe, but nobody is focused on all of them. That is just for that moment and to establish what is going on. I genuinely feel like that's what's going to happen here.
I think Mr. Terrific is a co-lead. I think everyone else is super supporting.
Because I think...
Because we've seen, Mr. Terrific's storyline in the comics involves Superman enough, and I do think he's a tie to Maxwell Lord.
I think the biggest thing that you nailed the nail on the head was specifically when you mentioned the costumes, and those really feel like Maxwell Lord, Amazon, whatever costumes. Mr. Terrific's actually looked exactly how it does in the comics, and I think you're exactly right. He's the one that goes, wait, this guy is different. We've been doing this superhero thing wrong.
Yeah.
And he ends up being the person that obviously we're following Superman the whole time. But that is
seeing the status quo shift.
That is our end to go, oh, we need to make an adjustment to be more like this guy instead of this corporate crap we were doing with Hearing before.
All right. Well,
then we get real costumes.
I ask you guys, what do you think about all this stuff we're talking about, especially with the squirrel running around the joint? Do you think that it's going to be too jarring? Will it work? Are you nervous about it? What say you? Okay, let's get to this topic because this is something that came out from our mutual friend Jeff Snyder. There's another rumor here. Production update revealed on Avengers 5, and Shawn Levy might be out of the running of directing the movie. Mark Cassidy again. We have some updates on the Marvel Studio plans for Avengers 5, and it sounds like Deadpool and Wolverine director Shawn Levy might not be in contention to helm. Avengers 5, formerly known as the Kang Dynasty, hasn't had the smoothest of production journeys after losing its original director, writer, and star of Jonathan Majors, but it sounds like Marvel Studios has things back on track. According to Nexus Point News, shooting is now scheduled to get underway in late March 2025, running through the end of summer 2025. The side note also says, due to the size of the cast and the film itself, several actors will be filming their scenes in chunks. Actors might have to film all their scenes at once in the span of weeks without the whole cast or even anyone in the scene being present during the shoot. Around this time last month, the trades reported that Deadpool and Wolverine director Shawn Levy was in talks to helm the movie. The studio reportedly offered him the gig in mid-March, but he turned it down at the time as he was putting the finishing touches on Deadpool Wolverine and was also working on the final season of Stranger Things. Though negotiations were said to be underway, it never sounded like a done deal, and other filmmakers were reportedly in contention. It appears talks might have fallen through, as Jeff Snyder seems pretty sure that Levy will not helm the project. Snyder said, broken dish. All I'm going to say on Avengers 5 is Shawn Levy is not directing that movie. So despite Majors firing, Kang is still expected to appear, although we can't see the character being as big of a role in the story. As we know, Loki writer Michael Waldron was hired to pen a new draft of the script, but reports indicate that the events of Loki Season 2 are still going to inform the main plot line, which means that Kang would likely remain on as a supporting character at the very least. We got word that Marvel Disney had severed ties with Majors almost immediately after the news that he had been found guilty, which would obviously seem to suggest they were waiting for the verdict before making a decision. However, some insiders believe the studio was never going to move forward with Kang, regardless of the outcome. And then we head back to the 60 characters and yada, yada, yada. Okay, so the big news here is that Shawn Levy is not going to be directing, but the thing that I was kind of hoping that they would dive into, and they didn't, and I guess it's because of Snyder's thing, and I wish we could try to get Snyder. I'm going to try to get Snyder on the phone, but like, why is Levy not going to do it? Should I try to get Snyder on and see?
You can try.
Yeah, see if we can see.
Hey Siri, call Jeff Snyder.
Yo,
I'm calling you on the air again.
I figured you would. What's up?
All right, so I got it. We're on Capes and Cowls, and we're talking about this Avengers 5 thing that you tweeted out that everybody's talking about. Mm-hmm. So most of these reports don't say why he's not doing it. Was it contract stuff? Is it the fact that he just doesn't want to do it? Is he tired, or is it just because of the Stranger Things, or is there more to it?
Oh, I have absolutely no idea.
Oh, come on.
I have no idea. I figured it has something to do with scheduling, as it usually does.
Yeah. Well, who would you say, if you were to guess right now, who do you think the front runner for that movie is?
I have no idea.
Jeff Snyder. Are you playing coy with me?
You're not going to get me on this one. Sorry.
All right, fine. All right, I'll see you later.
Happy 4th.
Bye. All right, I tried. So he knows more. He knows more than he's telling.
Those were both very.
He knows more.
My lawyer said.
No,
Or
that's
like,
no,
you know,
that's
I know
that's
what to say when questioned.
No, I know what that is. That's find out in my newsletter. That's what that is. which I completely understand.
You could
But
hear it in this tone of voice. He was just like,
I don't know.
no, he's
he
not
was
going to.
smiling as he
No,
was.
of course, he's not going to let me
Tune
know.
into Jeff Snyder Plus.
No, I know Jeff well enough that he's got enough. He has his information, but he's like, why am I going to tell you that? I can put it on my newsletter.
Your audience for free.
100%. That's what he's thinking. 100%. Hey, but I got to try, right?
Scheduling.
Yeah, it's just like anything else. It's scheduling. But it doesn't change the fact that I think that it's a bummer that they don't have him, because I think he was the best choice for this. Well, I haven't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, but if Deadpool and Wolverine is the movie we think it's going to be, then I think he'd be the perfect choice. But Corey, what do you think?
I think for a lot of reasons he would have been a great choice. It's funny, and I got receipts about 5 years ago. I had him as my number one X-Men director.
Oh, okay.
For similar reasons.
Sure.
It was after Real Steel and after Stranger Things, and I was thinking someone that's able to make heart out of something that should be silly and something that's able to direct an ensemble is the guy. Like, it's really hard to topically get comic movies right, and Real Steel should not be good. Like, I'm sorry.
No,
I
know
don't
it's
care
really good. It's
what
true.
you say, Rock'em Sock'em Robots on paper, come on. But that and Stranger Things, I was like, he's my X-Men director. So I got really excited to hear how good Deadpool and Wolverine was. And then the idea of him doing a giant Avengers ensemble, I was all about it, because it seems like he really understands tone. He really understands comics. He really cares. He also is really more invested in the fandom than a lot of directors. That he doesn't seem like he's a director that got brought on as a gun for hire.
Right.
He feels like a director that's like a James Gunn for hire. He's invested. He's like fully committed to the fandom, the properties. He wants to have the conversations. Follow me on Instagram. He watches all my stories. So I know you're watching, Shawn Levy, and I love you. So I think he cares about what the voice of the people is.
You have to clip that one out.
But I think it matters, like the voice of the people, right? Like, I think that he's invested in what the audience has to say. And I think that's rare in the opposite of that. And I'm trying to be polite. The opposite of that is when Taika got ripped apart and then he was like, I just did it for the money. And I was like, even if that's true, that's kind of hurtful to the people that are invested in you investing in their characters. And I understand that you can have a defense mechanism and you can want to separate yourself. But at the end of the day, if someone's looking to you as like, man, I love what you did with Thor Ragnarok, and then if your Thor 4 doesn't go well, you make it about like, oh, I just wanted money, that's kind of hurtful. Whereas I love when James Gunn or Peter Safran or, in this case, Shawn Levy or the Russo brothers, like when they go, hey, we know how much you love this stuff. I'm going to look around at the fandom. I'm going to look at these commenters. We're going to look at this world. We're going to invest in you. Let's have a conversation. I think that is a way more healthy way to make a movie, because art should be about, it's show business. The show has to come first. Business is important, but you really need to show us how much the show impacts us. And thank you for being a mirror back. So I got a lot of love for Shawn Levy.
I would argue that's why you've seen so many failures at the box office recently, is you are forgetting the reason why people are going to your movies. It is to fall in love with their passions. It's to appreciate art. It's to escape for a while. It's all those things collectively. So if you're more concerned about the business element and not the show, you need the business element. It's the same thing like if you're watching, say, the NBA, like you need the business element. But like if all of a sudden you have a situation where it's like, we're going to let LeBron James take as many rest days as he wants. Bro, LeBron James comes to this town twice a year.
Right. You
better make sure that I'm paying the premium because I want to see one of the greatest to do it. So it's the same thing. If the Marvel movies have gotten to that point, the last thing you want to do is be like, well, I did it for a check. You want someone to be in it. The thing that I kept giggling about during your thing is when you brought up Shawn Levy and Stranger Things, I saw this hilarious black stand-up comedian being like, I didn't like Stranger Things. All that really is a black friend and what he does hanging out with his white friends. I'm like, you ain't got no cousins. You can't join a gang. You just gonna go around and fight witches and like, what's wrong with you, bro? I was like, so I couldn't shake that. But all that being said, I hate that Shawn Levy's not doing it. But it sounds like there's just other stuff going on, and that doesn't mean that that's the end of him and any Marvel properties.
No,
another Deadpool, let alone he may not be doing this first one, but maybe he gets tapped for Secret
Well,
War.
that's why if it is indeed this, but if it is indeed the scheduling issue, then they would, he'd actually, maybe Corey's right. Maybe they do, whether it's X-Men or something, or maybe even who's talk right now? Secret Wars is
the second one. That's 6.
Yeah, but right. But they're talking. The rumors for that one is Coogler, right? Is that the rumor?
Rumor is, yeah.
Rumor is for that one. So maybe they switch it up. Maybe Coogler gets offered 5, and then
also, and this isn't from Snyder's take, this is just from an objective outside standpoint. If you're Shawn Levy and you are not only doing a world tour to set up your movie and then releasing your movie and then going back to a show that got delayed a bunch of times because of circumstances outside your control, would you want to do a giant 60-person movie next? Like, I don't think, just from a logistical standpoint, I think he wants to put out his best work. And I think that if you're having your Stranger Things kids turn 30 on camera, you don't want to commit to something as big. So I think, like, I know Joss Whedon's had a lot of, Joss Whedon isn't the best example as far as like caring about the fandom, but as far as what he had to do between Avengers, he did Avengers, was offered Avengers 2, but in between he literally shot a Shakespeare adaptation in his house in black and white. I think sometimes as an artist, you need like a palate cleanser. And I think that it wouldn't be maybe healthy or what Shawn Levy's mindset is to go from Deadpool and Wolverine, the biggest Marvel movie in years, right into Stranger Things, finale season, the biggest show in years, into an Avengers movie, the biggest thing Marvel does. So maybe he wants to, I don't know, see his family.
I think, and the other thing is he doesn't have any of his, this will be one of the first movies in a while, if he ends up taking it, that he doesn't have one of his people, like whether it's Hugh Jackman, whether it's Ryan Reynolds, he's able to make the movies that he wants to do with the people that he wants. This would be more so where he's like,
Ruffalo's now the lead of the Hulk.
Right.
Because he was an Adam project.
Right.
So it's a Hulk Avengers.
Right. So I and that doesn't mean he has to have that. I mean, that's but I'm just saying, just going into a big movie like that, he might want it. Anyway. All right, we got one more story we can do because there was a lot. Like I said, we got to what we could get to, but let's do this one. All right, 2 stories here that we'll end with, and that is Daredevil Born Again is going to feature a game of politics, and Agatha all along will be so scary you'll cry. Brad Winterbaum has shared updates on Agatha All Along and Daredevil Born Again, claiming the former will be one of Marvel Cinematic Universe's scariest stories to date. We'll find more details here. Josh Wilding, the official Marvel podcast, caught up with Brad Winterbaum, Marvel Studios head of Marvel streaming, television, and animation, and got a couple of quick updates on Agatha All Along and Daredevil Born Again. The former launches on Disney Plus this September and will serve as a sequel to WandaVision, picking up with Agatha after she was left trapped as Agnes in Westview by the Scarlet Witch. The expectation is that the series is going to add Wiccan, Wanda Maximoff's son, to the MCU. Stakes will be high. Then, as it happens, so will the number of scales. Agatha is really fun, but it's really scary, and it gets quite dramatic. She's an amazing anti-hero. Then at the show, it lures you in with the fun of Halloween. Before you know it, you're crying. Asked exactly how scary the show gets, he said it's a Marvel brand of scary. It's a Halloween show. There are deadly stakes in the series. It's a fun ride, but it's a dangerous one. Werewolf by Night is about as scary as MCU has ever got, so if Agatha All Along is in the same ballpark, it should be a lot of fun for horror fans. As for Daredevil Born Again, Winterbaum reiterated that the series is a revival of Netflix's Daredevil, but made it clear that it's also very much its own thing. In fact, in place of a physical battle between the Man Without Fear and Wilson Fisk, it seems the latter becoming mayor will put a whole new spin on that dynamic. Daredevil is incredible. It's similar in some ways to X-Men 97 because it's reviving something that the fans love, but it's taking it in a new direction. These characters have matured, the universe is different than it was, things have changed, and society has changed. Matt and Wilson have changed, and their characters are going to collide in a way we haven't seen before. It's no longer enough to try to murder each other. There's a whole game of politics at play. After a creative overhaul, we're getting the 9-episode Daredevil Born Again next March. The show was originally announced as being 18 episodes, and we're expecting the second half of the series to follow somewhere down the line. Now, though, it's looking like Spider-Man 4 will be released between them, with the Wallcrawler and Daredevil teaming up to take down Mayor Fisk. All right, there's a lot that comes out of that. Let's start with Agatha. So this show, we've all talked about it. I don't understand, and maybe it's because it was so far into production already, that why they stayed with this, because, you know, they had all these shows that got greenlit and all these Marvel shows that are greenlit. How this one is going to push forward. If they had an Elseworlds, I was like, yeah, sure, make it. But if it's like how they're going to push the story forward with this, I'm interested. If it's just to do what they did with Werewolf by Night and give it like a holiday type thing around this time, okay. And to play devil's advocate against myself, that I always bring up Andor. And I go, no one cares about this show. No one wants this show. Why do we have this show? And then it turns out to be one of the best things that Star Wars has ever done since Disney bought it. Now, could that be the case? I mean, I love her. I love Catherine Hahn. So you got that. But Winston, I don't know, man. What do you think about this?
So I think the answer is very clearly laid out in the story that you said. I think that obviously Disney looked back and said, we need to really take another look at what our game plan is. But it is very clear they have not abandoned the idea of Young Avengers. So the main reason you're doing this, other than Catherine Hahn obviously bringing the fire and everything that happened with that, the fact that the point is to introduce Wiccan legitimately into the story, that is why you're going forward with this. And whether or not Agatha is essentially using this as a plan, she's so mad at Wanda, she's using her own child to get back at her. That is both a compelling story as far as the anti-hero / villain revenge story, but you're now introducing one of the final pieces to let your Young Avengers kind of happen. And I still stand by the fact that I think part of why you're maybe even getting that asterisk in Thunderbolts, I think the Young Avengers in some form or fashion maybe gets introduced in the Thunderbolts. And I think that you need to make sure that those young heroes are available to do so. So if this is the last one you need to bring in to like make that happen, I think you don't abandon ship because the main plan is still in place. And they were like, I don't necessarily know another way that we introduce him into it. So you're both getting more Catherine Hahn, which everybody loved, and you're finishing your game plan of setting this team out. That to me is what this reads as, is that we are trying to progress the story by needing to introduce this young hero in a more permanent fashion.
Well, you know, Coy, one of the things that I saw, and this is just a rumor that came out a couple of days. The rumor was that they're canceling Young Avengers. There was a rumor that came out just, I think 3 or 4 days ago, that they're not going forward with it at all. I don't know if that rumor is true at all. Winston, you very well might be right.
Who knows?
My opinion is I don't think that should be a movie. If they're going to do that in general, this should be a miniseries or a TV show or a Disney Plus movie, but it should not be a full movie.
I genuinely think they're going to show up in Thunderbolts. I think that is where that is going to happen, and why you're pushing even Agatha coming out, because it's supposed to be later this year, right?
September, October.
Yeah.
So like you're intentionally pushing that because Thunderbolts is next year, so you need to essentially introduce your final piece.
I got a few things.
Yeah.
One, I think that they've been playing a very long game towards Doom. I think this is for Doom as much for Wiccan. We don't have any magic in the MCU yet, and I think that Agatha is going to be not to scale. But Doctor Strange is always on his own little side. I always feel like Doctor Strange's magic is like just him.
Yeah, I guess I get it. And we can always
feel like it
more.
pervades into the greater MCU.
I'm like, okay, wait. We had 2 Doctor Strange movies,
and he's in all 3 Avengers.
Spider-Man, and there's the WandaVision,
and he caused a spell and made him forget. We've got some magic in the MCU. My cohort Winston raised a good point. No, I was just thinking like it
Sometimes
feels.
you got to pop out and show Coy.
Man's got a point. But he's gonna film the music video after this. I think that the beautiful thing about the MCU is that it plays a long game with setting up tones, and the Doctor Strange tone of magic doesn't feel like it really fits elsewhere. Yeah, they used it in Spider-Man as a plot point, but they had to get rid of him for most of the movie and had him in like another dimension to bring him back in. I think in order for Doom to work, who is a exact blend of science and like magic and science, this is how I should have opened this point. We have way more science than magic, and I think we need to balance the magic with the science. So you need to introduce characters like Agatha, you need to bring in whoever Aubrey Plaza is going to play, you need more of a magic element, and I think the show is going to take place over a long period of time so they can plant seeds throughout Marvel history that involve magic, and I think we need something like that to make Doom make more sense, because
I hope so.
If the only sorcerer we have is Doctor Strange, all of a sudden it's like, but I'm the new magic guy, but I also have Iron Man stuff too. But I'm scary, because I think originally it was supposed to be Kang being taken out by Doom, and now that Kang is not as big of a presence, you really need to make sure the magic element's in there. And then Ironheart looked like it was. I mean, I really like the Ironheart footage at D23 we saw in 1967, but this I think is going to be in conjunction with Ironheart, because remember the Hood is in that as magic and street and like gun play, like there's a lot going on mixing magic with stuff, so I think you need those elements to build a Doom.
Moon Knight, I know we don't really talk about it, but that kind of
magic-ish. Yeah, but you see what I mean, like we need to build that side. And then the last thing I want to say is on the business side, Disney is super seasonal, especially Halloween. Look at Hocus Pocus. Look at the fandom. I think having a show set around Halloween is just smart business.
Yeah, when it releases, absolutely, sure. And the question is, you're right. And then this adds into the Daredevil of it all, is that he says about Agatha that it's so scary, it's going to make you cry. But he also, to be fair to him, he says in the way that Marvel does it. So as they referenced Werewolf at Night, but what I don't want them to do, and they didn't, and I was worried about this in the article, that he was going to really pitch it as this like horror-based thing, and then it was going to be
like what?
Yeah, and then it was going to be kind of the way that Boba Fett was pitched as like a gangster story, and you're like, that's not a gangster story. And like that kind of stuff. Like that's what I was hoping. But from what his comments say, sure. And then you go and you hear the stuff of what he's saying about Daredevil and how they're promoting Daredevil and they're excited about what's coming there. With the politics, and I think the best thing that ever happened to this thing was the facelift. I think 18 episodes would have been way too much, and too much pressure on the writers in general, what they would have had to do. TV has changed dramatically in the way that people write television. These 18 episode things are going to be way hard for a team to even try to lock down and do that. So I like what we're getting out of this so far, but you heard everything, Coy, on the Daredevil article there. What stood out to you?
I think it's really interesting that we're getting a long game with Kingpin, and I think it's really smart that you need to play your Thanos villains a little bit more. You need to play people that are manipulating behind the scenes, and I think that the Marvel villain problem is close to being forgotten. In the first phase, it was like Marvel, new guy, but he's dead, new guy, dead per movie, and I think playing Kingpin across universes is really clever because it's going to make Daredevil feel more tied into Spider-Man. Even if Spider-Man's only in one episode or none, it's going to feel connected because they're both in New York. They should know each other. So having Kingpin as the guy, but more than just, did I forget Spider-Man? No, but more than just like, as lawyer, I want them to know each other as Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Matt Murdock, like in all ways, like they do in the comics. They're a rare duo of, they really get each other. They turn to each other.
What I'm looking for, honestly, I'm not saying I don't want more of the large team ups. The whole Avengers had to bring in every hero because this is a galactic threat. But there is something magical about watching like an episode of Superman the animated series and the Flash is in town. And like they're gonna do their little race thing, but they also have to like stop because Toyman came up with something wild because he wants to race.
Right.
There's something about Spider-Man is he was fighting the lizard, but then Wolverine got involved because apparently there was a poison for mutants that got out. There's something about Wilson Fisk is about to become the mayor.
Yeah.
So then after what Hawkeye and Ronan went through, like he pops in for a second, and then Spider-Man is like, yeah, bro, he like ruined. My Aunt May used to do this thing called, what was it? Feast Foundation. Feast Foundation, right? It's like he tried to shut it down. Like having them pop in for those moments, but have it being meaningful and feel like a comic issue, an episode where those cameos come in, but the story still focuses. That's the thing that I think is missing by not having the street level heroes get more focused.
Well, do you think though that's one of the things? This is a question for both of you guys with the Spider-Man side of it. Do you think that that's one of the main reasons of the Sony pushback is that where Kevin Feige wants to make this thing the next Spider-Man, a street level movie, and you would incorporate Fisk and you incorporate Daredevil, and if you're Sony, you're like, why are we helping you promote your show? We don't have anything to do with that show.
And if you did your job better,
right? But that's irrelevant. But that's your point is right. But it's irrelevant as far as the common sense of it. It's more of like, do you think that that's a reason why that Rothman that there might?
I do think you're right. To a point, at least it's a conversation because if you have Spider-Man and Fisk together at any point, everything Fisk going forward kind of promotes that side of it,
and they see nothing from it.
And multiversally, that's all Sony side. Like Andrew Garfield and Toby don't help Marvel. So I could totally see on a very black and white scale, Sony seeing we want multiversal because that's ours and we want you not a street level. That said, I think Sony, and I've said this before and I get crap for it every time because people don't like the Sony films, but Sony at the levels that I've talked to people adores the fans and the Spider-Man stuff. I don't know the suits making the decisions before I get, in conversations, but I've only seen people go like, what would the fans want? Like what Spider-Man thinks? That doesn't excuse them greenlighting things like Madam Web. I can't understand that, but I do think at a level, the Spider-Man fandom does want to share with Marvel or they wouldn't have made that new deal. They literally just re-upped their deal with Tom Holland between the last film and this one. So there must be some sort of compassion beyond, we just want to make a movie. Because Sony could have been like, okay, we got our toy back. We're just going to do a Spider-Man movie now. Thanks. You erased his memory of Marvel. We have a clean slate to make a Sony Spider-Man film. But they made a deal. So I don't think it's as black and white, but I could see some suits saying what you said, where it's like, why would we help, blah, blah, blah. But I don't think that's the overall thing.
No, it's less about the helping as much as it's like, well, why don't we just put a bigger multiverse thing of it and be able, because they can still build their characters out and do that. Because if you stick it with the Daredevil side of it, you are scratching it back. And maybe that's exactly what the point was of your fight. You're like, yeah, we want you to scratch our back here. We're going to scratch your back and give you the MCU stuff where we're going to make it smaller. We're going to put a character in there that people will come see Spider-Man even more so. You guys are going to see the majority of the box office anyway. It's your thing, and let us promote our thing. So maybe it's bouncing back and forth, and I'd love to know what those negotiations are.
I also got to believe by doing a No Way Home, where you brought in everybody from Goblin to Electro to Sandman to having Venom show up and leave Symbiote behind, you have to believe that there is a scenario where they are playing in the sandbox a little more together.
Yeah.
And if you need to loan the rights to a Kingpin, maybe they're like, well, you can't have Vincent, but like if you just want to be able to use a Kingpin and this is multiversal, you can make another Kingpin.
I mean, look, they used Michael Keaton. They used Michael Keaton in that stupid scene in Morbius. They still use him.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like it's a situation where it's like, hey, yo, like we have a thing that we're trying to do, but in the nature of what's going on. But I would also argue that Disney probably has some sort of clause being like, if your movies still suck, you're not getting anything.
I do wonder how much like there is an oversight in the original script before that certain characters get written into those scripts. And I also wonder, how much this year having Madam Web and Deadpool the same year is going to change the power structure.
Madam Web was this year?
Was it?
I think so. Yeah. It was.
My God.
It was Valentine's Day.
4 months ago, dude. Madam Web was
February.
Yeah, it was.
It feels like it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, Madam Web just happened.
Yeah, and then it came out on streaming and it crushed on streaming.
Yeah,
Did it really?
Yeah, crushed. It was like one of the most popular movies because you're not paying. It goes to my art. It's the argument. You're already paying for the service, and if you already heard it, there was enough promotion behind it, and is it that bad? Is what most people probably did when they clicked on it, and it's like that's why certain movies are built for streaming.
That's why I watched Morbius eventually, because I was like, it's on streaming. I'll give it a shot.
But without the theatrical push, I don't think Madam Web would have been talked about.
That's
like
true.
Without it going out.
Absolutely. It's a catch-22. Yeah. It's like if you don't promote it and you don't have people talking about how bad it is, does anybody even care when it hits streaming? So it's absolutely valid. But anyway, tons of stuff that we talked about and tons of stuff we didn't even get to. There's so many stories here today, but I'm glad that we got to a lot of them. So make sure you comment, put your thoughts in there about all the stuff that we talk about. I'm very curious about those predictions on the Deadpool weekends. But before we say goodbye, I want my two co-hosts to let you know where you can find them. We'll start with Winston. Where can they find you?
You can find me at the Swaggy Blurred on all the platforms, especially over here on YouTube. I'm continuing to build that out. I've been doing a show called The Blurred Breakdown, where I'm doing stories across pop culture, sports, politics, all of that. When you need to know what had happened was I got sidetracked yesterday. I was going to drop a July 4th episode of a bunch of cool stuff because Kendrick decided to throw another nuke at Drake. So go check out my reaction and breakdown of the Not Like Us music video. And then later today, once I get some time on Fridays, I do something called Friday Funnies, where I'm literally just finding some of the funniest videos or Reddit stories on the internet, and I'm just reacting to them in real time based off of what people send me. So go check that out.
Coy.
You can find me at Coy Jandro over on my YouTube, and I'm doing Deadpool month this month. So in addition to my weekly comic show, my Acolyte coverage, and all the things I'm doing regularly, it is the month Deadpool comes out. So I'm putting out every few days something Deadpool. So on Fridays, I'm giving you comic recommendations, the 5 Deadpool comics you can read before Deadpool and Wolverine to get a tone of the movie dropped just today or yesterday, depending on when you're watching this. So 5 Deadpool comics. Then on Monday, I'm doing 5 Ryan Reynolds movies you might want to check out leading up to it. Some deep cuts, talking the nines, talking chaos theory, talking movies no one's seen. I love Ryan Reynolds. I really want to talk about his stuff that informed Deadpool. And then next week, I'll be doing Wolverine and Hugh Jackman. The last week I'll be doing X-Men and Shawn Levy, but I want to lead up to the Deadpool and Wolverine movie at the full push. So check out my YouTube page for all that comic and movie goodness.
Check them both out, guys, and thank you for checking us out here today. Make sure you go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are fine. Please go over there if you listen to us on audio and download the shows. We're trying to get those shows up in the rankings. Now, we also have some great stuff coming up here with our interviews. We have Sam Morrell, comedian, up on Tuesday. Myself and Roxy. We've got, I mentioned Robert Eiler from The Sopranos is coming on soon. We have so many cool guests coming, and I'm working on some other ones that are going to blow your mind if I can get them. And I think that I'm going to. But you got to hit that button. Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that stuff. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks to Winston and Coy. We appreciate you. We'll see you on the next show soon. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, the whole thing. Bye.